Hello everyone and welcome to our day 2 of Pint of Science Festival in Norway. Today we are here in beautiful sunny Bergen.
Hello everyone and welcome to our day 2
I am
Pint of Science
delighted to
Festival in
present to
Norway.
you the second topic of today.
In beautiful sunny Bergen. Hello everyone and welcome to our day 2
I am delighted to present to you the second topic of today. Sorry for these technical issues on my side. Hopefully that won't happen again tonight. I guess I got overexcited with the YouTube windows here, but I'm delighted to have you guys here today. And the topic of today is Let's Talk, Can You Decode My Message? My name is Petra and I will be your host tonight. And hopefully my message will get right through and reach you in the understandable language. If not, let me know in the comments so that I can fix it in time. Today with me we have two amazing speakers, but before I introduce them, let me begin by introducing the organization that's behind this event. Our name is Pint of Science Norway. We are the family of the international team, Pint of Science, and you can see on the map that there's a bunch of us in multiple countries. This year there are 24 countries that held amazing events worldwide. Now the festival is ongoing in Norway, and Norway as a country joined this community in 2020. So last year we held our first festival. And you can find us on our website, pintofscience.no, or on all social media with the handle pintofscience.no. Don't hesitate to reach out if you want to volunteer with us in the cities that you can see on our map. We have wonderful local chapters in multiple cities that organize the main festival in May. And on top of that, we organize special events covering different topics. If you follow us on social media, you can also follow Barney's Adventures. This is our mascot Barney, and he's handmade and currently lives in Oslo, but plans to travel throughout Norway. These are our amazing volunteers who make this possible and who are striving to bring the science out of its ivory tower to where people really are, to pubs, cafes, and public places. So we really want to reach you, and we hope to do that today online, unfortunately, not in pubs, but we hope to recreate the event. And none of this would be possible without our sponsors of tonight. We thank Simula, Akademiet for Yngre Forsker, the Nansen Legacy, and Filamo for their sponsorship. My last point is to invite you to our games tonight. And the way we will play our games is using Kahoot. You can either download the Kahoot app directly on your device, or you can go to the website kahoot.it. However, if you are on your browser, it may not be a pleasant experience to switch between the tabs. So if you have time to download the app, go for it. I hope that you have your drinks ready and are prepared for our wonderful topic of today. Let me bring in the speaker of today, Isaac and André, just to wave at us so that we know that I'm not here alone. Hi, Isaac. Hi, André. Welcome. And in the meantime, while our audience is working on reaching Kahoot, be it on the app or in their browser, we can show us the code for our first Energizer of the night and give you the code so you can join our game. Let us know in the YouTube comments if you are having difficulties with the Kahoot app or if it works for you. And I will give you a few more seconds. to reach our first game of tonight. When you are in your browser or in your app, just type in the code that you see on your screen. It's 210514. And please use your real name so that we know that the winner is you and not your alter ego. And I see that we have some players joining the game. Wonderful. Oh, I see that we have a global citizen here. Hello. We have 6 players enrolled in the game. Let's wait for a couple more. I will just refresh with my drink tonight. We have 7 players, and I think that we can reach more players. Don't hesitate to reach this game. If you don't know how to join our game, get a friend and ask him to help you, because by the end of tonight you will get a chance to win some nice Pint of Science goodies if you answer the questions covering the topics of the night. So keep your eyes and ears open and please join our game. I will give you a few more seconds to join. You can let us know in the chat. In the meantime, where are you watching tonight? We hope to reach the local audience, so hopefully most of you are in Bergen. However, we are always happy to see more people joining. But it seems that all players are ready. And if you are ready, let me start the game. And let's roll with the first energizer. Have you used any communication-focused app today? Is my question for you, wonderful people. Type your answer on your device or in your tab. Have you used any communication-focused app today? Have you messaged your mom? Have you messaged your sister? Have you messaged your loved one? If you have, type yes. If you haven't, consider doing so. Okay, we see the name of the app as well, and looks like most of the people have communicated tonight, so keep your ears open, because you will really want to know how well your messages are or aren't encrypted. Let's hit the next question. How many languages do you speak? Do you speak one language? Do you speak 2 languages? Or perhaps even more than that? And most of our audience speaks 3 or more languages, and that is just mind-blowing, I think. So let me congratulate you and give you hats off. You can let us know which languages you speak in the chat later, but now it's time for the third question. What do you find most challenging about speaking the foreign language? This is your time to share with us your experience as a foreign language speaker. My personal fear of speaking a foreign language is sometimes the accent, and I think I'm not alone. If I'm not alone, let me know. What do you find most challenging about speaking the foreign language? Type your answers. Looks like we have many different fears of speaking the foreign language, which is understandable. Pronunciation, having enough vocabulary, accent. I'm right there with you. Speaking, false friends, very true. Becoming fluent, and start talking. So I think it's about time we start talking about these issues. And this was our final question. Thank you for participating in the Energizer. Now it's time to welcome our first speaker of the night. And join me in welcoming him on stage. Hello, Isaac.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Perfect.
Welcome, Isaac. Isaac is a PhD candidate at the UIB, so University of Bergen. He works in the informatics department and he works on cryptography. So he will share his knowledge with us today. If you have any question for Isaac during his talk, don't hesitate to ask on YouTube channel and let us know. All questions allowed.
Okay, well, first of all, thank you very much for the nice introduction, and thank you very much for the invitation, for the opportunity of sharing with you guys what I like a lot working on, which is cryptography. So, just give me a sec. There you go. So I would like to start by saying that, in my opinion, communication is something that is really important. It's a very important process in the human society. And we can actually see that because we have some proof, in my opinion, in cave paintings. These are extremely old, and from them we can conclude that humans have always had the need to communicate, to share information. And in some cases, it is kind of striking to me the fact that the idea that we want to convey are pretty much the same, regardless of where we are. And for instance, these two cave paintings that we see here showing hands in different places, Argentina and Indonesia, shows that maybe the way in which the human mind works and the ideas that we have are actually very similar, regardless of who we are and where we are. Being a bit more formal, we can say that communication is a process in which information is exchanged. And in order for communication to happen, we need at least two players, one sender and one receiver. It can be more, of course, but let's keep it simple with only two entities. As the name implies, the sender is the one who is sending information to the receiver. This information can be referred to as a message or simply the information. And this happens through a communication channel. This communication channel can take many forms. For instance, it can be visual, auditory, tactile, or even biochemical, like some insects. And in my opinion, the big star of the show when it comes to communication is information. Information is ultimately the thing that we want to transmit. And information can be very simple, as just saying hi, hello, maybe asking a question, how are you doing, how was your day? Or it can be something more sensitive, more valuable to us. This example is the classical one. It's not one that I like a lot, but it's a very classical example. For instance, if a general wants to send the order to the army to attack the enemy at a given day and at a given time, well, this information can actually be very, very sensitive. This can actually dictate the outcome of the war or the battle or whatever. So information for us can have different values. And in some cases, information can be so valuable that we actually invest resources into securing it. Now, here some problems arise. Why? Because security is a concept that might have different flavors. What do I mean by this? I will give you two examples. Let's assume, for instance, that I want to chat with a friend. Actually, we want to gossip, not only to chat. We want to have a proper gossip. In this case, I want nobody but my friend only to get the information that we are exchanging. And in this case, security for us will mean that we want what is called privacy, meaning that the information transmitted is only available for the both of us. The second example is, imagine that I get information and I want to preserve it. For instance, I can just keep it in a stone, carve a wooden sheet, or carve wood. I can write it down in paper. I can even store it in a database. And I want to make it accessible to everyone. I don't care. I want everyone to have access to it. The only requirement that I have is that I am the only person who is able to modify or update this information. And that is security for me in this context. We refer to it as data or information integrity. With these two examples, what I wanted to illustrate is that security has different meanings depending on the context. That's the main point of these two examples. We can have, of course, many other different types of security definitions. The only thing that I want you to understand is that security depends on the context. And when we establish communication, in general, we assume that security is not something that will happen naturally. So it is very common to assume that the communication channel, in general, the whole process of communication, to be insecure. And on top of this, we can even add a new player in the game, which we will refer to as the adversary. This adversary is another entity, another person, whose goal might be to get hold of our information. The adversary might want to maybe just listen to it, understand what is happening, or the adversary might have even bigger intentions, such as modifying the information, destroying it, tamper with it, whatever. The point is that the communication channel is there and the adversary can interact with it in many different ways. And you may ask, okay, that's very scary. I think that's the case. And I have the impression that most of us here are very familiar with which, in my opinion, is the most widely used insecure communication channel of all times, and that is the internet. I don't know your habits on the internet, but mine are pretty big. I practically can do everything over the internet. I can do my tax declaration, pay my taxes, keep in touch with my doctor, do my banking, do shopping, even have entertainment over the internet. And let's be honest, in the last month, in the last year, with this human malware called COVID, the use of the internet has been bigger than ever, I dare to say. So, of course, I want my information to be secure, to be transmitted secure over the internet. For instance, I don't want anyone else to have access to my banking information, and I really want the government or the tax authority to really keep my my tax declaration information secure. So don't be afraid, even though the internet is an insecure place, it is to some extent well secured where it needs to be secured. And how do you achieve that? You may ask. Well, the tool that we use to achieve that is called cryptography, and is actually the main topic of this talk. My favorite definition of cryptography is the one that is here on the slide. Let me read it for you. Cryptography is the study and practice of techniques for secure communication in the presence of adversaries. And again, secure depends on the context. Just remember that security can have many different meanings. Okay, so we will start our journey, small journey in the world of cryptography, and it can be to some extent intimidating, but don't worry, you're not alone. I'm coming with you, but most importantly, I'm going to introduce who I think are the most well-known people in the world of cryptography. Please say hi to Alice, Bob, and Eve. Alice and Bob are extremely good friends. Actually, in the world of crypto, Alice and Bob are always communicating. They are always exchanging messages. Eve is a friend of them as well, but she tends to be very gossipy, and she's actually always eavesdropping. So Alice and Bob, they want to chat, but they know that Eve is around, and they don't want her to know what they are exchanging. So, for instance, Alice wants to say hello to Bob. But again, they know that Eve is around. So what they actually want to do is to have private communication. Privacy is what we want to achieve. So Alice knows that using cryptography, she can have a private conversation with Bob. So what Alice does is that she will use a tool called encryption. You can think of encryption as a box that takes two inputs. The first one is the message that she wants to send to Bob. In this case, it's hello, Bob. And the second input is the key. And let me stop here for a minute. The key, you can think of it as a password in the sense that this key needs to be kept secure. But unlike a password, this key must be known to both Alice and Bob in order to have this communication in a private way. Okay, so we take the message, we take the key, we give those two elements as input to this encryption box, and this encryption box will generate a secure version of the original message. Actually, we call this ciphertext or encrypted text. And in this case, this particular box produced this encrypted message. So Alice can safely send this encrypted message to Bob, and Eve will be able to eavesdrop. The only thing is that she will not understand the message because, as far as I know, that random looking set of characters in there has no meaning, at least in the English language. Okay, so that's the case for Eve, but also Bob is not able to understand what that means. So Bob takes another box, which is called the decryption box. And it takes as well two inputs. The first one is the encrypted message and the key. As I mentioned before, this key should be known to both Alice and Bob, and it should be the same key. So upon giving these two elements as input to the decryption box produces the original message, which in this case is hello, Bob. And in that way, Alice and Bob have been able to establish communication without Eve knowing what they are exchanging. And if you have been using some messaging apps like WhatsApp, for instance, just as you were asked at the beginning of the quiz, let me tell you that without knowing, you are using encryption, because at least the most popular ones, WhatsApp, Telegram, Signal, and some others around, they use what is called end-to-end encryption, and that means practically what I just explained. Whatever you write on your phone or your computer is encrypted before being sent to the recipient. So that's really nice, and that's one use of cryptography in everyday life. However, here on the screen we see something that catches my attention the most, and that is right here on top of the window. That's a bit small, so I'm going to make it big for you. There you go. We have two elements to notice here. We have a very cute lock, and we have the letters HTTPS. The letter S actually stands for secure, but practically having the lock and having the S, let's say it's equivalent. So I am a bit curious. I'm going to click on the lock. I'm going to click on more information, and I get this cute little window. I go to the security part, and if we focus our attention in the very last paragraph, we see something that says technical details, connection encrypted, and some really weird things going on there. Well, let me tell you, that is one of the details of this cryptographic boxes that we are using to communicate with the WhatsApp webpage. And here we have another thing that is called a certificate, and this certificate is a cryptographic certificate. If I click in here, I will get a bunch of information, and I'm just going to focus on a very particular part of this certificate, which is this one. It looks really weird, but I just want you to take a look at really fancy sounding words like public key info, algorithm, elliptic curve. If we go a bit down, we see signature algorithm, SHA-256 with RSA encryption, fingerprints, a lot of really fancy words. And and values for those words. Well, let me tell you this, what you see right here are the raw data elements for the encryption that we are using when communicating with, in this case, the WhatsApp web page. However, you use this type of cryptographic tools every single time that you visit a web page that had this lock or this HTTPS at the beginning of the address. And I can assure you that you find this in at least banking, health systems, the taxes, even Netflix uses this secure communication. So every single time that you open Netflix or your banking web page, you are using this type of, in my opinion, really cool cryptographic tools. So you use it every single day. And I'm not sure how many of you were aware of this fact, but there you have it. Those are actually the values of the cryptographic things that you are using. And yeah, that's really cool. So I would like to go back to our cryptographic boxes from the beginning. And I want to open up this one for you. So the way in which this cryptographic box works is as follows. This box takes the alphabet and shifts every single letter 3 spaces to the right in this way. Now you can ask, wait a minute, why 3 places? Well, that's the value of the key. So I am using, in this example, that the value 3 as the value of the key. So upon receiving the message, we just take a look at the corresponding shifted value for the letter H, for instance, which is E. Then we carry on with E, which is B. And continuing that way, we get the message that actually was sent from Alice to Bob. Now, the decryption box does something very similar, but on the other way. What do I mean by this? That we take the alphabet, we take again the value of the key, which is 3, we shift the letters, in this case, to the left, and we just take a look at how the letters correspond, and then we get back the original message. And I particularly wanted to show you this example with the value 3, because using this example, I am showing you what is called the Caesar cipher. And the Caesar cipher is actually named after Julius Caesar, who actually used this type of encryption and decryption box to establish secure communication with whoever he wanted to talk. But something that is really interesting to me is the fact that Julius Caesar was alive even before Christ was born. So cryptography, or we have evidence of cryptography being used for more than 2,000 years. And I wouldn't be surprised if people before him actually wanted to establish also secure communication using some kind of similar methods. Okay, so cryptography has been around for a bit. We definitely use cryptography right now. Now I would like to just give you a hint of what cryptography has ahead. But before that, I would like to talk about cryptanalysis. Cryptography is all about building these boxes, designing how they work. Cryptanalysis, on the other hand, is trying to take these boxes, understand how they work, and try to break them. By break them, I mean we want to breach these cryptographic systems. And by breaking or breaching, I mean we want to recover the message, or even we want to actually get the key that was used to do the encryption and decryption of the messages. Why, you could ask? Well, if you have bad intentions, maybe because you want to get something for yourself, you want to benefit from the information that others are exchanging, or if you are more like me, you want to break things in order to understand what the vulnerabilities are, where the weaknesses are, and try to overcome these vulnerabilities to make our cryptographic systems more secure and more robust, and so that it makes sense to use them in everyday applications like the internet. And I want to go into the details of cryptography a bit more. Cryptography can be separated in private key and public key cryptography. And if we go into the details of private key cryptography, we have a world in there. But I want to highlight a special type of encryption and decryption boxes, which are called string ciphers. Why? because I am a PhD student and my research topic is cryptanalysis of a special type of stream ciphers. So I just wanted you guys to understand where I stand in the whole world of cryptography. The way in which we do this is we take one of these encryption boxes and we make a mathematical model of it. This mathematical model is then bombarded with many different techniques from mathematics and computer science in order to understand it and try to break it and find vulnerabilities, and also to fix these vulnerabilities to make even more robust systems. So that's pretty much what I do. I break stuff. Now, going ahead in the world of cryptography, we have something that is called the era of quantum computing. Maybe you have heard the word quantum in the physics side of things. Quantum physics is like a big topic right now. But I would like you to know that quantum computers are powerful computers compared to computers that we use every day now. And they exploit properties of something that is called quantum states, such as superposition and entanglement. And I really just want to mention these concepts so that you know them and you can use these fancy words after this talk. But there's no need for you to understand what superposition and entanglement are. The point is that quantum computers pose a threat to cryptography. And don't get me wrong, quantum computers are not evil or bad all in all. It's just that they can be used to break our current cryptographic infrastructure. That obviously includes the internet. And right now, there are some very, very big efforts on what is called post-quantum cryptography, which is creating these cryptographic boxes that are thought to be secure against attacks, actually using these even more powerful computers. So that's pretty much the journey that I wanted to give you in the world of cryptography. And I would like to conclude my talk just by saying that, in my opinion, it is just amazing how we as a society have been able to achieve the level of technological advancement and development that we have right now. And the current status is that our society, our interaction is so complicated and so complex that I don't think that there is just one single person that understands completely what is going on. And given that we use the internet and digital communication every single moment in our life, I think it is very important for everyone to understand at least a bit what are the tools that keep this infrastructure that we have right now secure and usable for all of us. At least for me, trying to understand the world around me and how things work is just amazing. And well, thank you very much for your attention, and I would be very happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you so much, Isaac. This was very informative and shocking for a few of us here. I think we are just beginning to understand what you just presented. I for sure would not like to be Eve in this scenario and be left out of the communication.
Yes.
So thank you
don't be evil or an eavesdropper.
And explaining what the encryption box is about. We had a question from YouTube, so perhaps yes. I will start with that. Is there encryption that is not end-to-end?
The answer is yes. End-to-end is, in my opinion, I might be wrong, but end-to-end means that the origin of the information, which in the context, for instance, in the context of messaging applications, might be my cell phone. That's the origin of the data, and the destination is the cell phone of my parents or of my friends, right? So end-to-end means that the encryption starts here and ends right there. But there are some other applications in which data might be started already within a secure environment. For instance, if I work in a company, I know that nobody else has access to the internal network of the company, and I might be sending information within computers of my company before it reaches out the internet. So you can think of end-to-end being when the data leaves the company and goes to some other company, for instance, and travels on the internet. But the real thing is that it originated from my computer and it traveled within the company, and then it might reach some other computer far away on the receiving end. So that's not end-to-end. So end-to-end is a bit tricky, but yeah, there are scenarios in which end-to-end is not necessarily what we want.
I see. Some of us mentioned at the beginning of today that we used this particular app to communicate. And I remember at the beginning of this year, there was a big issue about this particular app selling their data to another company. So I was wondering if you have opinions on that, and if you can advise people on using safer apps, or if perhaps you know more about the data privacy issues that you would like to share with us.
Oh yeah, that's actually a very interesting question. And as I mentioned before, cryptography allows us to have one type of security, which is privacy. However, when it comes to privacy in the context of your question, it's more in the sense of, okay, I have data that is generated by me just surfing the internet, just using my applications, using my computer. And even though when we are using those services, we allow those applications to monitor our behavior, our data, what you just mentioned, that there are applications or companies or malicious people selling our data is like another layer. And that has to do more with privacy awareness, is how I like to call it. In the sense that right now there are people who say, I don't care if I get tracked on the internet. I don't care if people know where I am right now, if my GPS or the GPS on my cell phone is tracking me, I don't care. But this is exactly the kind of thing that I have the impression we need to change, because maybe we don't realize it yet, but the information that we have is ours, is valuable. As I mentioned before, the level of value that we give to the information depends entirely on us. And there are people actually benefiting from it, and we may not notice it now, but we can actually be targeted by this extra information that we generate. Now, when it comes to recommendations, it is very difficult, because given the amount of digital interaction that we have, it is very difficult to draw a line and say, okay, I want to use services, or I want to stop using services that track me, but I will have to make a trade-off on usability or practicality of things. So it's literally a trade-off that we need to take personally. We first of all need to be informed on both sides what our data is, what they are getting from us, and then make an informed decision on what we are willing to give up in order to still have a reasonable level of services or comfort when using these services. But definitely something that we need to be more aware of.
Thank you for bringing this awareness to us. And I think we have time for 2 more questions.
Yes, please.
Is it true that all encryption uses more or less the same protocol?
Encryption and decryption uses more or less the same protocol. I'm not definitely sure what they mean by protocol, but I will try to answer it to the best of my knowledge. When it comes to encryption and decryption, you can think of decryption being the opposite operation to encryption. So in that sense, regardless of what encryption method or what encryption box you use, that's the idea, that decrypting is doing the opposite to encryption. Now, the word protocol is a bit tricky in here, because a protocol is, let's say, like an orchestrated step to achieve some type of communication. And in the cryptography world, when we refer to protocols is something very complex that can actually have encryption and decryption as part of the protocol. So you can think of protocol being a massive machine compared to just the encryption box. Now, one single protocol can use many types of encryptions and decryption boxes. So that's the best that I can answer, because it's not very clear to me what the question was. I hope that was more or less helpful.
I think this is a complex issue, and
Yes.
protocol sounds too straightforward. We have a poetic question. Has there
Yes.
ever been safe communication?
Oh, wow, that's a very interesting one. Got me off guard. Either to say yes, because if we are able to perfectly, well, not perfectly, but if we are able to strongly enough define our security requirement and we fulfill that requirement, then I dare to say that security. Again, for instance, I want to gossip with Petra about how bad I did in this presentation later. And literally, it's just the two of us on the top of the mountain where nobody else is, and we're just chatting there, nobody's listening to us. Then to me, that was secure already. And we don't need, fancy computers or anything. But of course, if you want to add more security concerns to a single communication interaction, then that becomes way, way harder. And that's the case of the internet, for instance. We want our data to be protected, our data to be private, our data to be well kept, our data to be verified. So the more requirements you put in security, the more complicated it becomes. But I have the impression that, we can have full secure communication.
Thank you for this answer. And there you have it, folks. Word of mouth is still the safest. Thank you so much, Isaac. Join me, our audience, please, in the virtual applause. Thank you for your nice talk. And we need to move on to our second speaker of tonight. Let me bring him in. And please join me in welcoming him. Sorry for that. Welcome, André. And please enjoy our evening. André is a researcher in the Department of Foreign Languages at the University of Bergen, and he works on topics of multilingualism and identity. And I will let him take it away from here.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Thank you, Point of Science. Thank you, audience, for listening to us. And thank you, Petra, for inviting us. When you first contacted us, and I didn't know about Point of Science, when you said it was a research and scientific dissemination event, I said, wow, this is great, because this is exactly more or less what we did in our research with school kids. So I thought, well, this is a great opportunity to show what we did to a different audience, to a larger audience. And what we did is somehow connected to what the questions were about languages, the questions you answered before. So let me just share my screen and the presentation. Just 1 second. So yeah, here we go. So yeah, this is my talk tonight. The Young's project exploring multilingualism with school children. So just to give you a quick background. So this is our research team. We work with lower secondary school kids, and one of the things we asked kids in our research was exactly this: to be multilingual means. And from the answers I got from you, I can see that most of you said you speak more than 3 languages. So I'll be quite curious to know what your answers would be how would you complete this sentence? Because we ask kids the same question, but of course the answer to this question depends on the languages you learn, where you learn them, who you speak them with, etc. But we're going to get back to that soon. So let me just introduce ourselves. So this is we're working in the Department of Foreign Languages. We're on our head supervisor, Professor Otto Hawkins, and there's basically three people in our team. Yeah, it's Professor Hawkins, my colleague Irina Tyrikova, and myself. Yeah, so let me tell you a little bit what we did, or actually what we're doing, because this is an ongoing project. What we're doing with our research in lower secondary schools in Norway. We all know that nowadays with diversity and global mobility, so languages are a hot topic. Everybody's talking about languages. Everybody's using different languages. School environments have become more or increasingly linguistically and culturally diverse, etc. So our project studies, it's a mixed methods project. What I mean by mixed methods is we use quantitative and qualitative methodologies in our research. Yeah. So in the first phase of our project, we had an online questionnaire that we used with kids in lower secondary schools in Norway. At the time they answered the questionnaire in 2019, they were in year 8 of lower secondary school. There was about 7 schools that participated. 593 students answered to this questionnaire. We asked lots of questions to them. How many languages they spoke, where they spoke those languages, who they spoke those languages with, the languages they learned at school, and a lot of questions about their opinions and their beliefs about language learning, etc. Then in the second phase of the project, that's starting 2020, year 10 of lower secondary school, the project splits in 2 parts, but the part I'm going to be talking about are interactive sessions with pupils. What does that mean? We used some of the data they answered in the online questionnaire and presented the data to them so that they could interact with the research data that helped generate and draw their own conclusions about the research. Yeah. So let me give you just some background on why we did this, why we wanted to present kids with some of the research data they helped generate. Well, first, there's the issue of research ethics. Yeah, that usually, literally, schools open their doors to us. They welcome us in. We collect our data. They spend their time willingly to give us data, but we hardly ever give something back to schools once data is collected. We collect data, we publish our articles, we write our papers, but schools, and especially participants, usually don't hear from us again. And this is something actually we heard from people at school, from the management of the school and the teachers, that a lot of people come in, collect data, and they never come back. So we wanted to give something back to students, since they helped us with our research. Yeah, and this is also connected with knowledge. Yeah. So what kind of knowledge are we producing here? Is it just the knowledge we as researchers build based on the data? Or what about if you submit some of this knowledge to the participants? In other words, we ask participants, okay, this is what you think about multilingualism. What do you think about what you think? So the second level, this meta level of knowledge, I think it's very interesting, because it gives the participants the opportunity to question the data, to question our own conclusions, and to expand their knowledge about the phenomena in question. In our case, multilingualism, multilingual identity. Yeah, and the third aspect is learning. So by doing this, by presenting the research for school kids, we wanted somehow to raise their awareness about language learning, about language learning and language use in and out of school. And maybe this would give them, maybe this would change their approach to language learning. Maybe this would motivate them to study and learn more about languages. So let me tell you what we did. Basically, so on the slide you have to be multilingual means and are you multilingual. The two images you see on the top, they're from the questionnaire. They're from phase 1, right? They're 2 print screens taken from the questionnaire. 593 school pupils answered. Yeah. What you see at the bottom is what those images became. So what you see at the bottom is phase 2. This is what we used in the projects with the kids. So the answers to be multilingual means they had a prompt and they had to complete this prompt according to their own ideas. And then we created this visualization at the bottom. Yeah. And then the second, the ones on the right, we just asked them, after they defined what they thought to be multilingual meant, we asked them directly, are you multilingual? And then they just answered yes, no, or not sure. And we also created some different visuals they could interact with. What I'm going to focus on, what I would like to present to you briefly, is that visual, the visual on the left-hand bottom. So to be multilingual means. So I'm going to stop sharing and try to share the visual itself. So during the sessions, the kids interacted with this visual in the classroom, and we were there like talking to them and helping them explore the visuals. One thing we wanted to do was not just to present them with tables or with a list of, oh, here are your answers. We wanted them to be able to explore the data themselves, to draw their own conclusions, to discuss with partners, and then to compare their own categorizations, their own answers to our answers. So let me show you, let me try and share. So there's going to be a bit of a delay here on what I'm saying and what you see on the screen on YouTube. But let me try and share the screen with the visuals so that you have an idea of what the visuals are about. So I already shared it with you. Probably you'll be able to see it in a few minutes. Yeah. So this is one of the visuals we created. So the categories on the left and on the right, they're static, meaning they don't move. You see, if you try to move a bubble, either on the left or on the right, they won't move. Yeah. The categories in the middle are the ones the pupils answered. So we categorized all their answers to be multilingual means according to what they said. Yeah. So they were presented with these visuals, and then they just pressed go to task. So probably it's going to take you a while to see this. But so we wanted them to interact with the data and create their own categories based on their own answers. So so here they could sort out their answers in different categories. Creating their own categories: languages and the family, languages and culture, languages and society, etc. After they did their sorting on their own, they could save their answers and compare their categorizations with the way we researchers categorized their answers. So this is what probably you're going to see on the screen pretty soon, or you're already seeing it. So this is the way we categorized it, so they could compare their own categories with the categories we created as researchers. And then a third level of this visual were prompts where students could interact with each category. So there were questions for students to reflect on each of the categories. Just for example, to give you an example, on category 8, you have this prompt: some students think that you must use languages you know every day or often to be called multilingual. What do you think? think of the languages you know, how often do you use them, for what purposes, etc. So these questions were for them to more or less reflect on the data. So this is basically what we did with this visual. So there was another set of visual where we explored the answers to are you multilingual? And they said yes, no, we're not sure. These sessions took place December last year. We did this in one school with five classes, 114 kids, and it was very interesting to see them interacting and playing researchers for a day with the data they helped generate. I think the links to the visuals must have been posted on the YouTube chat, so you can have access to the visuals if you like, if the links are there. If not, I would gladly share the links with you, and you can play around with them. Ideally, we would do this face to face, and then you could do the sorting yourselves, and then we could compare your answers to our answers, etc. But I think doing this online would be a bit too complicated, flipping between tabs, and so. But you have the links there, and if you want to know more about the project, on the page of the event, Pint of Science, you can find under my talk, you can find more info there. You just click, and you will be taken to our research group webpage and my contact email addresses, etc. I guess this is more or less what I had to say to you. Now I want to hear from you. Are you multilingual?
Thank you very much, Andre. That was a really nice talk and interesting to see opinions of Norwegian pupils. Can you remind us how old they were?
Yeah, in year 8, they were between 12, year 8 of lower secondary schools, their average age 12 years old. When we did the visuals, when we got back to them, they were in year 10. So they were around 14 years old, more or less. Yeah. So that was the beginning of lower secondary school, and yeah. And another thing, well, for those who don't know the Norwegian educational system very well, lower secondary school is when pupils have the chance to start learning a third language. So that's a very interesting segment. Up until lower secondary school, they learn Norwegian and bokmål, nynorsk, and English from year 1. But in ungdomsskole, they have the chance to learn all the languages. So it's a very interesting segment to research, to study. Yeah.
Do you also have the information about what is the most common language that they opt for as the third language when they start learning it?
Yeah, it used to be German a few years ago. Until a few years ago, nowadays Spanish is the most popular language. So it's Spanish, second German, third language is French. Those are the most common languages offered at lower secondary school. Depending on the school, there are other languages on offer, but this is going to change. There's just been a regulation that now it's optional to take a third language in lower secondary. So the whole status, the whole dynamics of language use in lower secondary schools is going to change.
Yeah, I guess it's a very much fast evolving field to be in. Are you also in touch with the teachers still from the schools that you surveyed?
The teachers, yeah. So in the second part of the second phase of the project splits itself. So I talked about the visuals, but another strand of the project interviewed the teachers. So my colleague Irina Tjurikova did interviews with teachers, and she presented the data to the teachers, and then she collected data with the teachers, their beliefs about multilingualism, etc. So so we have it's quite a thorough project. We have a lot of data actually.
We will definitely share the website to your department as well, where people can find out more about your research and where exactly this survey was taken, in which schools. What I find most intriguing or interesting is how some students were able to distinguish speaking the language and understanding the language. So they placed it in the separate categories, right? In question what
Yeah,
it means to be multilingual, which is
yeah.
very cool.
That's something. So it's the richness and the diversity of their answers was very impressive. And another thing, if you compare like the main categories of their answers, it more or less maps onto the way we researchers approach the phenomenon of multilingualism. So they have the social dimension. Some students said, well, societies can be multilingual, not just individuals. Then you have the cultural dimension. So being multilingual is to learn to talk and be able to communicate with other people. The family dimension, using languages in the family. The what I call semiotic dimension. What do you mean by language? Some students said, oh, using sign language also counts as a language. Dialects also count as a language, etc. So their answers were very interesting in that sense, because they somehow correspond to different approaches to multilingualism in academia. Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like a cool way how to get a sneak peek into our young people's minds with using this survey. Can you comment on perhaps how they distinguished speaking and understanding the languages as opposed to understanding the culture of the language or people who speak the language natively?
Yeah. Well, the categories on the left, they were very short answers. So this is something I didn't have time to. There were very short answers. Basically, they said to be multilingual means to speak several languages, and then they started numbering. To be multilingual means to speak more than one language. To be multilingual means to speak more than two, and so on up to four. So this was one category we created with the verb speak. So the focus was on oral communication. And some of them started numbering how many languages you need to speak. Some of them just mentioned to understand languages. And another category, and this is for those of you who don't speak Norwegian, this might be a bit complicated to understand, but it's this to kunne språk, which is roughly translating to know, but this know is not the same as speak. It could be speak, but it could be just understanding or just being able to read a language, etc. So those were the answers on the left. And then we started having overlapping answers. They said, okay, to be multilingual means to speak more than one language and understand different cultures. So these and or answers we grouped in the middle because they were not just short answers. So and the challenge was to make something that we're able to interact with and not just sit there listening to us talking and present data. Yeah.
Right. But you did give them some pointers that separated the categories somehow. As you
yeah,
said,
sure.
leaving
Yeah.
some essential, crucial keywords, let's say.
Yeah. We had to do that. Yeah.
Okay.
Because we ended up with too many categories, and so we kind of helped them. Okay, we kind of helped them to sort one or two, just so that they got the logics how to do that. Yeah.
I was also quite surprised about how many students identify themselves as or fell into the category of not sure about whether they are multilingual. So I guess this goes back to the definition of what it is to be multilingual.
Yeah, we were surprised too. We were expecting more students to say yes, but not that many. Yeah, there were a lot of students who said they were multilingual. And this is something we asked them in the sessions. We said, were you surprised by your answers? Were you expecting? Well, first we asked them, how many do you think answered yes, no, we're not sure? And then after this guessing game, we asked them, were you surprised? Some of them, most of them said they were not surprised, because well, we learn languages since a very young age at school, etc. Others said, well, we were expecting the numbers to be lower, etc. But it's very interesting to see children reacting with research data they generated. Yeah.
Can you tell us if your survey already reached kind of its goal in a way that it would affect the policies at local schools, or different attitudes perhaps from the teachers?
Oh, this is hard. Yeah, it's hard to tell. But what we're trying to do here is actually bring research more into, especially research in education, into the classroom. Yeah, I think if I teach language didactics, English didactics, if you study all the theories, all the authors, with virtually no exception, all the theories, all the concepts, all the authors you study, before being authors, before being scholars, they were classroom teachers. So all the theory, all the knowledge from language didactics comes from the classroom. There's nowhere else where it comes from. So if there's one discipline where theory and practice walk hand in hand, that's didactics. So what we're trying to do here is exactly this: is trying to bring researchers and participants closer together, but hopefully one day also policymakers. Yeah.
Yeah, let's hope so. We have a question from YouTube from Francesca. Do you know what were the other languages of the kids who defined themselves as multilingual?
Yes, we do. And that's another big mess, because it's so many languages, and some of them said, well, kebab norsk. I speak kebab norsk. Others said, I speak Mexican. How do you categorize? What do you mean by Mexican? Is that Spanish or Mexican Spanish? So yeah, we had a wide range of languages, and we also had a session where we asked them, and that was just ticking yes or no, where they use those languages. So do you use them at home? Do you use them to speak to your friends? Do you use this language on the internet? So depending on the language they listed, so this was an advantage for those who listed many languages. They had more answers. They took time answering the questionnaire, because the questionnaire, there was an online questionnaire. It generated so the set of answers for each language. But on average, I would say, again, roughly speaking, this is a wild guess. It's they listed on average 3 to 4 languages each. Yeah.
Wow, that is still quite impressive, in my opinion. Yeah. Is your collaboration still ongoing with these schools, or are you planning any new service? What is?
We're planning to show these visuals to other schools, because well, we had everything ready, the visuals were ready, and then guess what happened last year? Yeah, so up until up until November, we didn't know if or when we were going to do it. Luckily, there was this window in the COVID restrictions, and we were able to visit one school, because the thing is, we planned all this to do face to face. So it would be very hard to do what we did over Zoom, because then you'd have 3 layers of mediation. It would be Zoom, the visuals, and then they had some answers. They answered a questionnaire on one, so it would be too complicated. But so luckily we had this window. But now we're planning to, maybe before the end of the school year, we still want to contact some other schools, see if we do something online, or maybe something with the teachers. Yeah. Sorry, I can see a question here in the comments.
We have another question from Wolfgang. What is, in your opinion, the best definition of multilingualism?
Okay. My best definition would be the visual. So that's the answer. Yeah, there's a lot, but I could give you I'll give you a poetic definition. I think to be multilingual is to learn to live with uncertainty. Yeah, the more languages you know, the more you know that you don't know anything. So I think a multilingual person, and there's been studies that look into it. On average, multilingual speakers, they deal better with ambiguity and ambivalence and uncertainty. Yeah, but again, this is
That's a great perspective. And
that's debatable.
embracing
Yeah.
uncertainty is certainly important in these times. All right. I think in case we have some teachers from local schools watching us right now, or in case someone wants to reach you, I guess they can just contact you by email. We will share again the website to your department.
And that's something. Sorry, that's something I forgot to tell. The visuals were designed to be used by whomever is interested too. So yeah, please do contact us. We'll be more than glad to share visuals and tell how exchange our experiences on how to use them.
And again, virtual applause. Thank you for joining us today. Now we will move on to our final quiz of the night. I hope our audience is still with us, and I also hope that they have their devices ready for our quiz. If you don't want to download the Kahoot app on your phone, please go on kahoot.it and shortly I will share the code with you for our final game, where you will get a chance to win some nice Pint of Science goodies. For example, a coaster with a beautiful Pint of Science design with our Norwegian Barney in a Viking helmet. And when you are ready, please type your code for our game, 7041181. Looks like the first players are just joining the game. I will wait a couple more seconds to let you join in. We have 4 players so far. Again, we do recommend using the app because you increase your chances for winning. Warm up your fingers and let's get ready to win some nice prizes. We hope that you are also embracing uncertainty in these days and that you enjoy the talks. And we have 9 speakers. Hopefully people are ready to play, and let me start the game. Quiz of the night. Brace yourself. And the first question of the night is a multi-select one. Are you ready for some trivia of the night? Again, show me how fast your fingers are and if you can really win some items tonight. Otherwise, I'm happy to keep them, or I'm sure that our speakers would be interested too. Are you ready to win some nice Pint of Science goodies? Three seconds left, and hopefully all of us were born ready, almost all of us, and let's win. Fra, our player by name Fra, is on spot 1. Let's see how this evolves in the second question. What tools allow us to have privacy when communicating using an insecure channel? Again, what tools allow us to have privacy when communicating using an insecure channel? Is it encryption and decryption? Is it various cryptanalysis? Or is it mathematical models? And looks like all of you got this message very clear from Isaac today and guessed the right answer, which is encryption and decryption. Very good. Let's see who was the first. Looks like player with the name Fra is still leading, followed by Enrico and Areli. Let's see how it evolves with the third question. Who are the most well-known people in the world of cryptography? There were multiple names mentioned in Isaac's talk. Who are the most well-known people in the world of cryptography? Alice and Bob, Julius Caesar, researchers on cryptanalysis, or researchers on post-quantum cryptography? You have 5 seconds left. Who are the most well-known people in the world of cryptography? Almost all of you got this one right as well. Some of you decided to vote for cryptanalysis. Maybe you like to break stuff, just like Isaac, but that was sadly not the correct answer. Correct answer was Alice and Bob, who are constantly talking. Looks like we have a leading player. Fra, congrats, but we still have a few more questions to go. There are more native English speakers than non-native speakers. Do you agree or disagree? Are you a native English speaker? Are you not a native English speaker? Let us know in the comments. Do you think there are more native English speakers than non-native speakers? And this question is false. Most of you got that correct. Fra still leading the board. Final question of the night. Most of the surveyed Norwegian students were multilingual. We discussed the nice survey that André performed a few years ago, and some of the students were multilingual. However, it was not a majority, and most of you were listening carefully. All of you, actually. And it seems we have a third place for Eugenio, second place for Enrico, and I guess Fra on the first place. Congratulations, Fra. Please share your email with us so that we can deliver your prize. Stay in touch. You can contact us on social media or by email that you can find on our website. You can see it down below. Thank you so much for taking part in our final quiz of tonight. And I hope you enjoyed all the talks of today that were dedicated to communication. Let me bring back the speakers of tonight. Isaac Martinez and André Storto. And again, let me thank them for joining us tonight and taking part in our Pint of Science Festival. I hope you guys enjoyed the event. If you did, give us thumbs up. If you haven't watched us, no worries. We will upload this video to our YouTube channel where you can revisit it. It's a beautiful evening here in Bergen, so I hope you guys will enjoy the rest of it. And if you decide, though, to continue on a science note, if your glass is still half full and you haven't had enough of science, I recommend joining Stavanger chapter, which will begin streaming in a few minutes, and you can find their stream right here and join them. Again, Isaac and Andre, thank you for joining us tonight. Thank you to our audience. Stavanger, yes, begins in few minutes. Thank you, Thibault. And we are looking forward to meet you tomorrow again at 6 p.m. the same time with the topic how to combine conscience con science, where we will discuss how COVID affected our personalities. You will be able to identify your personality type in these challenging times. And don't forget to embrace the uncertainty. Thank you for joining us and see you tomorrow.